In this video, I want to break down Steph Curry's shooting workout at a Team USA practice. This video came out a couple weeks ago, and obviously Steph Curry is the best shooter in the history of basketball. So I want to go through this workout, see what we can take away, what you can take from this, maybe add into your workouts, maybe use it to inspire your workouts or make adjustments or just maximize things that you're doing right here. I think there's a lot of really, really good stuff in here. So kind of want to go through it, just kind of give you my reaction to things that I see. Let's hop into it. So I love this right here. This is what we would refer to as variable training or variable shooting. So he's staying at the same spot, but he's changing up the shot that he's shooting every time. So like he'll go off of the cat and he'll go off the dribble, changing up the direction that he's going right there. And so it allows us to get different types of shots every time, which is much more similar to what it would be like in a game where, you're not going to get the same exact shot every single time. And so this is actually a great way to make your spot shooting a little bit more game-like and a little bit more transferable. And so, like for me, pretty much all of the spot-up shooting or the high-rep shooting drills that we do in workouts looks like this, where no two shots back-to-back are going to be the same thing. It's going to be continuous. You're going to shoot this shot, and then you're either going to go to a new spot, or if we're staying at the same spot, you're going to shoot a different type of shot every single time. So that's a really, really good example of variable shooting. And I think when you get really, really good at that, it transfers to the game much better than shooting the same shot over and over again, which is why, again, the majority of the shooting that we do in our workouts looks kind of like that. So here we see him really mixing it up, where now we're getting this like two dribble stuff. He's moving. He's almost running off of like screens or handoffs, mixing up the type of moves that he's getting into, which I like a lot. Again, just making it very, very similar to how it's going to be in a game where you're going to get different types of shots, different types of pickups you even see on these. So really, really good stuff to start this workout. So here we have like some mid-post one-on-one reps right here where he's like getting different shots. And obviously, now I would have to look on like Synergy to see the clips, but I doubt Steph's ever getting any shots coming out of like a mid-post or a high-post touch like this here. But I like this just because you're working on like difficult shots, right? You're working on shots that are contested off of like different types of pickups, different types of movement. And so you're just challenging your ability to be a shot maker. And maybe what's kind of an uncomfortable situation or uncomfortable environment for you. And so I like this a lot. Just, thinking about playing one-on-one in uncomfortable situations, places you don't see yourself that often. And then for this, like he's obviously going to get to some sort of shot and he's not trying to like beat him to the rim or whatever. And so it's going to be a tough shot. And so I like just kind of throwing stuff like that in there again, just to kind of challenge your ability to be a shot maker. And when you're the best shooter of all time, you have to continuously find ways to challenge yourself. So I think that's really, really good. So now we see some of that, what we would call block shooting, which is like your traditional spot up shooting. Like when you think about working on your shooting, you typically think of this, where it's just kind of repeated over and over again, which, has its purpose. I think for me, and when you look at like what the science says about it, for someone like Steph Curry, this is not like challenging, right? You're not really getting better from this because it's something that you can do so easily, right? Especially him. And so you're not necessarily doing it as a way to like improve that. The stuff we just watch where he's going out of the mid post and get into a shot that's like contested, difficult, that's actually forcing you to get better because you're working on stuff that's difficult. That's going to force your brain to say, hey, we've got to get better at this specific skill. We missed this. How do we adjust to be better? With stuff like this, that's not really the case. But what I think it really does is it builds confidence. You're seeing the ball go through the net over and over and over again. So even with the great shooters that I work with, like we'll do a bunch of challenging stuff throughout the workouts, but sometimes we'll end with stuff like this where it's just simple stuff that they're familiar with, like block shooting, and so they feel really good leaving the gym just because they get to see the ball go in over and over again. And if you're Steph Curry and you're about to go play in the Olympics, like you want to feel good, you want to feel confident. So I think that's like the best reason to throw in something like this, is just to make sure that you're feeling good, that you're seeing the ball go in a lot. And ultimately, when you play with a lot of confidence, you're going to play better. Your results are going to be better. So to me, that's probably the best takeaway, the biggest takeaway when you look at something like that. So I thought this is really interesting. You see on all these shots how he has like perfect spin. He's like almost like lacing the ball up when he shoots it. And that was like a lot of these shots where he's shooting it like on the seams, and then here he just mixes it up where he's shooting like off the seams now. So you see how his rotation is different on the basketball. So he's working on being able to shoot it when he doesn't have it perfectly lined up on the seams, which I think is a really, really interesting concept too. Again, just a way to challenge yourself. Like when you're this great of a shooter, you've got to find ways to make it a little bit more difficult. And this is like such a microscopic detail that he's working on right here. And so I'm a big fan of that. So you're working on some floaters right here, some tough momentum on this, working both hands on it too. I like this. So starting off there, and then we get the makes, and then we get, so he's basically going 2 and 2. So 2 off the catch, and then 2 makes off the dribble, 1 going left, 1 going right. So again, working on, like, he's working on different ranges here. So he's kind of backing up, starting in the mid range. And I like it. Again, it's going back to that variable shooting where we're mixing up the shot. So he's got to make those 2 shots, and then he's going to his left and going to his right. And then eventually there becomes like a pressure aspect to it here. But what I love a lot about this, especially when he goes off the dribble, is like he allows himself to be creative, and it's not super rigid. Like he's not saying, oh, I have to shoot with this footwork, I have to do it the same exact way every single time. He's super creative with how he gets to it. And so you can see that when he plays, like he's very free flowing. You don't know what you're going to get. It's why he's so much fun to watch. And you see it here with his training where he just allows himself to be creative and not be too constricted with the things that he's doing. So now we see him working all the way back to that half-court line. Again, just challenging that range. When you're a great shooter, like you do stuff like this because you want to get better. You get better by challenging yourself. That's the way to do it. So right here, he has to make 3 shots in a row. He has to make a half-court shot. Then he has to make that 3 coming off of like that sprint, almost like a handoff maybe, on the right side. Then he's got to sprint all the way around to the left and make it here too. So again, finding ways to challenge yourself. Not only are the shots difficult, like there's a half-court shot, just a jump shot from half-court, which is tough. But then there's pressure because he then has to make shot number 2 going to his right, shot number 3 going to his left. And that gives you, again, that challenge that we want, but it also gives you that game-like sense of pressure. Like, oh, I have to make this shot. And again, you see right there, he's willing to like be a little creative. Like, okay, he's catching it like little like head fake almost to a step back going to his left on the shot. Like that's Steph right there. He's willing to switch it up. And I love a lot about this right here. Make that shot, sprint off, going to his right. Again, just a little different in the shot every time, and I love it. Now he makes that right shot. He's got to sprint around, get himself to that left, and boom, give him 3 in a row right there. So I think some of the big things that I took away from this is that, number one, Steph finds ways to challenge himself. So whether it's the range he's shooting from, he's shooting half-court shots, he's mixing up like the type of shot each time, so he's not able to get in like that autopilot rhythm mode. He has to keep mixing it up like you would in a game. Or even when we saw like the really microscopic detail where he's shooting shots where he's not lining up the seams, and that is another challenge in and of itself right there that you might not even recognize if you don't really look at it. He finds ways to challenge himself, and that's obviously we're watching the best shooter ever do that, and that's a big reason why he is as great as he is because he's not just going in there shooting the normal spot shots and calling it a day. He's saying, okay, well, how can I kind of push the envelope a little bit and make this more difficult on myself? And then you're going to get to games and be prepared to hit those difficult shots because you work on them. You're constantly challenging yourself. And so all of that leads to him being such a confident player. You watch Steph Curry, the one word that pops up is confidence, right? Like you watch him play, he plays with so much confidence. And I think it has to do with the way that he prepares himself as a shooter. And so I think for players, if you're a player watching this, finding ways to make your spot up shooting or your reps variable. So, kind of not completely going away from block shooting where it's like the same shot over and over and over again. Obviously, we watch Steph do that a little bit in this. But like I said, it's kind of to build your confidence and seeing the ball go through the net. But then mixing in times where you're going at the same spot, but maybe you mix up the type of shot that you do. So maybe sometimes it's off the dribble, or maybe you just mix up the type of shot off the catch. So the first time it's a back pedal, and then it's a sprint, and then it's a slide, and then it's a standstill. Just going to make it much more game-like and much more likely to translate to game success. And so for me, that was something that was really cool to see, is him kind of mixing that stuff into his workouts as well. So hopefully you took some stuff away from this. Obviously, you're watching the best ever do this, so there's going to be takeaways if we really dig into it. So appreciate you for watching. If you want a workout, a program that's going to help you take your game to the next level, I have a free program down below, top link in the description. 2-week program that's going to touch on your shooting. So some of the stuff that we've talked about, we have inside of that as well, but also your ball handling, finishing, overall scoring, your footwork, touches on everything. So it is you will see more improvement in the next 2 weeks than you probably ever have in a 2-week period going through this. So highly recommend you check that out. Top link in the description down below. I appreciate you for watching. Talk soon. Peace.